Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a registered nurse with extensive hospice and palliative care experience, and I'm on my journey to become a death doula. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about various topics related to end of life, death and dying, anticipatory grieving, being a death doula, hospice topics. Just the other day, we did a topic of slow decline and what happens if you're handed a recertification to do and you've never seen the patient. We talk about book writing as one of my hobbies is writing books or guides, depending on your point of view. Mainly in the space of helping my fellow hospice nurses, my fellow holistic nurses, as well as caregivers, and recently death doulas. If these are things that you're interested in, please subscribe. This is a non-judgmental channel. There's no such thing as a silly question. I'll do my best to answer your questions promptly, and it's a non-judgmental space. So for today's topic, I just wanted to give you an update on my own journey to become a death doula, talking about certification and related issues. Now, before we go into today's topic, I want to encourage you to do what I try to do every single day as a method to build resilience and continuing to grow in resilience, and that is to ask yourself the question, what am I grateful for today? What am I grateful for this week? I find that when we focus on gratitude versus what went wrong and this person did this and that person did that, if we focus on gratitude, if we look at forgiveness, because forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. You're not letting that person get away with anything. You're just not carrying around the bag of rocks anymore. But what are you grateful for? So in terms of what I'm grateful for is, this weekend we had to close for May. The book sales, I'm beyond amazed for. Well over 700 books sold in May. This is now May 3rd. At the time of this filming, 80 books sold month to date. Now, I want to be very clear to you, my viewer and listener. This compared to Barbara Carnes for the type of books the pamphlet she writes. Dean Kuntz, an author I enjoy, Stephen King, a lot of the different authors out there, 80 books in 3 days might be spit in the wind, so to speak. So I never want to make it sound like, ooh, look at me. I'm just grateful that there are people out there that are buying, reading, and then reporting back to me on LinkedIn and Facebook and other places that they're really enjoying the books that I write. And as part of sharing my gratitude, I did start what will be book number 5 of the Bridges to Eternity book series that's specifically written with end-of-life doulas in mind. I'm trying to write them for all types of end-of-life professionals. That will include hospice staff as well, but it's predominantly written for end-of-life doulas. So book 1 is Foundations in Practice. If you want to start your own doula business, I strongly recommend taking a course and becoming certified if you go through that route. And if you want the absolute least expensive route to certification is going to the National End-of-Life Alliance, becoming a annual member for $50, giving you a few days to make sure your membership is processed, downloading, when you become a member, their free study guide. And then after you've been validated, you are listed as a member, then take their test when you're comfortable. And that test is $115, so for $165, You now have a proficiency badge, which is the equivalent to certification. But my book does expand heavily on different thought processes that you may want to consider. And it's just a supplemental tool for you. Now, the author copy for that should be coming this evening between 8 and 10 p.m. I did want to get this video hot off the presses, which is why I'm doing it now. But by the time we have the next episode, I'll be able to share the print versions. I ordered the author copy of Book 1, Foundations of Practice. Book 2 is Business Growth, looking at having your own website, marketing and advertising, the elevator pitches, how do you present yourself, and so forth. And book number 1 does go into pricing. By the way, I did have a split. And there is a combined book. If you only wanted one book, that combined book's 8.5 by 11. There is a combined book that takes those 2 books, Foundations of Practice and Business Growth, into one book. Book number 3 is Creating Meaningful Legacies, that provides 50 SMART goals. SMART goal is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-specific goals to help you if you're doing legacy projects. So a number of my fellow doulas, they're out there, a number of hospice providers, that they may do ethical wills, they may do videography and pictorial, but these are not only 50 ideas, but they're wrapped around budgeting, sample budgets, materials that you're going to need to get it done. How do you implement this in the approximate timeline? Because when you're working with somebody at end of life, you're on a moving, it's not a real time calendar. To give you an example of that, and I know we're going on some rabbit trails before we go into today's topic, so please bear with me, and I thank you in advance. But I still remember my one pancreatic cancer patient in a certain heavy section of Eastern York, where I go there on my first day seeing the patient. I tell the wife I need to come more often. I didn't do the admission, but the admitting nurse said, oh, twice a week should be fine. And I get there, and he really looks like he's transitioning. That's that in and out of consciousness. There's 2 stages of dying. So I appreciate all my viewers, and Robert reminded me to really be careful of defining my terms. So when you talk about somebody dying, there's 2 stages of dying. There's 2 stages of dying. There's the transitioning phase and the active dying phase. Well, the transitioning phase that leads to active dying, that's when your loved one's in and out of consciousness. That's where they may be hallucinating, which can include, and I do believe they're seeing people on the other side, and they're interacting with those people. These are from a point of view near-death experiences. They're that close. They're 1 foot on this earth and 1 foot in the other side. This is where you frequently see terminal restlessness and agitation, sometimes known as terminal delirium. This is where you may have that rally, that burst of energy, where they just seem like they're healthy, they're eating more than they ever have. But that's where you see a bunch of those phases. I'm not going to go over every part of transitioning, but then you have the active dying phase, which is typically, not always, but typically they're in the equivalent of a medical coma, comatose-like state, not waking up at all. Heart rhythm changes, heart beat changes, respiratory is very common from an observable point of view before they die. But if here I went and saw this patient, I told the wife I need to come back more than twice a week. I come back the next time, looks like he's transitioning. I say that we're looking at a 2-week timeline, and I put him on daily visits, and I come back the next day, and I say that we're down to days. So I want to keep that in mind. First time I see him, things are moving fast. I need to come again. The second time I see him, transitioning, I think it's 2 weeks. This should be a reminder, no one other than God is God. I've been told by many of my loved ones, I've had family members say, Peter, you were accurate within hours. I don't even know what to say to that, because number one, I wasn't trying to be. I was trying to be helpful. I was trying to give my clinical judgment. But I'm not God. I'm not a prophet. And I've been wrong as much as I've been close to right. And so here, first day, I think something's going on. Second day, transitioning, we got 2 weeks. The next time I come, which I believe was the very next day, we're down to days. And the wife, her head was spinning. And she's saying, Peter, just the other day you said 2 weeks, and I am so sorry. This is not a pure science. There's an art to this. So when you're talking about doing legacy work, trying to bring that in so we can get to today's topic, here you need to be able to have backup plans. And so this book does go over, here's 50 smart goal-based, that's in chapter 3. And then starting in chapter 4, through several chapters, is prognosis-based legacy projects. So if you have a case, you were told by the hospice nurse it's less, 3 to 6 months. Here's 2 or 3 project ideas out of the 50. If you're told a lesser timeline, and so that's book number 3. Book number 4, which was just published the other week, is how to plan for and execute the best vigil possible. So a lot of times, and for those who don't know what a vigil is, that is where typically it's a lot of family members and friends, doulas do this. Hospice sometimes can with volunteers, but they just come and they do shifts, spending time so that the patient doesn't die alone, with the fine print that sometimes you do need to leave the room. Sometimes they do wait until everybody's gone to die. But a vigil is having that orchestrated in a way that gives dignity and respect to that person. And there's a way to plan this and a way to execute it that literally is uplifting and can just really help with the grieving process for this family. They're already going through anticipatory grief of their loved one who is going to die. And by having a proper vigil and having them involved in this vigil and be a part of this picture, studies have shown that they're less likely to have complicated clinical grieving where they just can't function. It's so depressing. So doing a vigil the right way can make a difference. And so now there's a book out there that wasn't. And so I just started the book 5 of the series, which is having end-of-life conversations. And this is written for end-of-life professional primary doulas. And I only have 2 chapters written. I cannot give you a timeline because this month is extremely busy. Our daughter and her husband, we adopted our daughter as a teenager. She's going to be 30, turning to 33 during her visit. But her and her husband, Mike, are visiting just next weekend. And so we have that going on. I'm taking classes. I literally, I'm going to get into the update. But so that book's coming out there just to help support all of you who have an interest in being a doula, or maybe you are an end of life, whether it's hospice or palliative care, and you just need that additional guidance and support that I'm not saying is unavailable, because that's going to be part of today's topic. There's more out there than we know. There's more out there than I know. And so I'm very grateful for all of that, and I'm grateful for you who's spending the time watching. So in terms of an update, and I do have some notes, first and foremost, on my own journey to become a certified death doula, and I made a decision that I'm going to wait with the, quote, official offering to the public until after I'm certified. Now I want to take a pause there, because some of you who are watching may be going down the road to being a doula, and you might be asking, do I need to be certified in order to be serving clients? And the answer is no. I'm going to give you a very quick answer to that, jumping right to the answer. The answer is no. You don't have to be. And technically, with the background I have in hospice and palliative care, and I've been a hospice volunteer before, and part of today's updates is I'm going to be sharing, I just became another hospice volunteer again here in Kentucky. But you don't have to be, because that certification doesn't have the same meaning as being a certified public accountant or a certified nursing assistant. Because the caveat in our industry is there's not a recognized floor. So hopefully all of you know, like when you go into a room, I'm filming this in an office in our house, you have the floor you're standing on, you have the ceiling up top. Well, the floor is going to be, that's your minimum level of knowledge. So as a registered nurse, when I took my NCLEX, the national boards, I had to have a minimum level of knowledge in order to pass my boards. I didn't have to be an advanced practice nurse. I had to be able to prove I wasn't going to kill a patient on my first time in a hospital. And there's a baseline level of knowledge that whether it's in Pennsylvania, Texas, California, Kentucky, it's the same floor. And when you go to become a certified nursing assistant, there's relatively the same floor. Now, I wish we lived in a world where there's no fine print, but we live in one where there is. So the fine print, when I came to Kentucky and I wanted to have my Pennsylvania license endorsed in Kentucky, I had to not only send all the paperwork from the Pennsylvania board, I had to go through criminal background checks, but I had to take what's called a jurisprudence exam, if I'm not killing the pronunciation, that basically tells this Kentucky State Board of Nursing that I understand how Kentucky law impacts my nursing scope of practice. It's different from Pennsylvania. And as long as I can, I took that test and I did pass, I am now a Kentucky nurse. Well, for right now, early June, this is June 3rd at the time of this film, 2025, there's not a national bar. I'm not talking license, like a lawyer bar. There's not a national bar for what it takes to be an end-of-life doula. And sorry, I need to convince my puppy she needs to stay in the room because I do have the door closed and there's a tripod and whatnot. So there's not that national level. And so I've been talking to a number of different people on this. And one of the updates, I'm going to be skipping around a little bit, so bear with me. But I had the chance to talk to Crystal, who is one of the founding members from the Virginia End-of-Life Doula Collective. The Virginia End-of-Life Doula Collective. And I recommend that you go to YouTube and you look up, and I'll include it in the description below, the Virginia End-of-Life Doula Collective. It's a nonprofit organization. They have 6 board members with over 20 years experience combined in terms of doula and end-of-life experience. So that's huge. That is amazing. And they're forming this collective to help people in Virginia have a solid floor on which to practice. And I do want to give a plug for their organization. They're going to be starting membership drive shortly. And it's only $50 a year. And when Crystal shared with me the fee, I, who am a penny pincher, I'm frugal. I was like, this is an amazing offer, because for that $50 a year, they're going to have 4 on-site meetings geographically dispersed throughout the entire state of Virginia. So all over the state. So it's not, oh, you always have to come to one location in Virginia and maybe it's too far to drive. That's like here in Kentucky, I can go up to Frankfort and be there within an hour and a half to 2 hours. I've already driven to Cynthiana, Kentucky in 2 to 2.5 hours. But if you have me go out to Paducah, that's at the far west, that's a little bit too much, depending on the value. But for 4 on-site meetups, they're going to have 6 online webinars. All this is included. Directory listing to be a part of. And while I do believe we need, as end-of-life doulas, we need a one only one recognized doula directory. The plus side, and I do agree with Crystal for this, is the more directories you're listed in, as long as you're keeping your stuff up to date, you're more likely to get traffic on your website or get emails and so on. But here's one of the key things for that really elevates that $50 annual membership is there's going to be a library of templates. So many of us who are building, and I'm doing this, we're using Canva. And if you've been watching any of my episodes, I really enjoy Canva Pro. I don't receive any money. I'm not affiliated. I just strongly believe in their product. But here I'm creating my own templates. I have my own presentation for death and dying. I have a note to make one on what is a death doula. I'm becoming, for lack of better words, a part-time instructor that's part of the updates. I'm going to be a part-time instructor for the International Doula Life Movement. And anyone who instructs there, they offer free continuing education courses. I'm going to get back to the Virginia Collective in a moment, so please bear with me. But the IDLM offers free continuing education credits to anyone who has taken any of their courses, and these are free. So instructors who teach those are not unpaid. So from a point of view, I'm volunteering there too, but I'll be a $10.99 paid for other courses. But here I'm creating presentations to be used in those CE courses. But imagine somebody not having to reinvent the wheel. So the Virginia Collective, they're going to have a growing library of templates, of presentations and whatnot that you can edit to fit your business, your brand. And that by itself, there are people out there on Etsy and other sources selling templates for doulas for $50, $100 or more. So here you get that, plus you just all the support. So when I had just a little over an hour Zoom call with Crystal this morning. Thank you so much, Crystal, if you're watching this. I told her at the end of the call, I felt like I was blessed more than anything I could offer to her. And so I meant that, what I said, Crystal, and I thank you so much. And there's other collectives out there. So I don't have, I'm not near my computer. She did send me an email, but there's a number of growing collectives out there. And here's one of the huge, I want to give that plug before I forget, benefit for the Virginia Collective is they're going to be going over Virginia law as it impacts doulas. So if you're in Virginia, Virginia law as it impacts doulas. That is gigantic. And I'm interested, sorry about that, technical difficulties. So one of the benefits of the Virginia Collective is they're going to be providing education on how Virginia law impacts doulas. And one of the things that Crystal mentioned is one of the things Virginia has done for birthing doulas is give them the opportunity to get certified to be able to accept Medicaid, Medicare payments. And Crystal, please feel free to comment below if I'm saying anything incorrect. But wouldn't that be great, not only Virginia, Kentucky, and the other states of being able to say, you know, we have backing, we have options. So I don't know if I'm going to be looking into, I shouldn't say I don't know, I probably am going to be looking into what does it take to put together a collective in Kentucky. So that was a tremendous value of just getting to talk with her on what they have to offer. Now, in terms of other updates, in terms of my own journey, is I'm still going to classes. I'm going to actually, I've been the other day I co-hosted IDLM meeting. Thursday, I'm going to be co-hosting Death Over Dinner via online, where a whole bunch of us are just going to have a blast with death positive talk. And I'm so excited about that. For those of you who are looking for course options, I cannot recommend the International Doula Life Movement enough. I cannot state there's not a equal course out there or a better course out there. I only know my own personal experiences, but like I'm in cohort 25. I started early May. The class started April 23rd, so I came in a little late. But everyone there is amazing. The classes are so interactive. This is live online via Google Meet. The questions that come up, anyone who ever would research me and like, Peter, you're a hardcore XYZ on XYZ topic. I'm really being challenged on my thought process. I'm not saying I'm changing to anything unbiblical, but it's like, wow, I really need to look at how I approach this issue. And is there a way to be more sensitive? Is there a way to be more compassionate? Is there a way to be more loving on this issue? And so to any of my fellow classmates, if you're watching this, thank you. Thank you from my heart. I really appreciate each and every one of you. So I graduate in our last meetings in mid-July, and then there's a graduation ceremony sometime after that. But part of my journey to become the end-of-life doula, and I mentioned, you don't have to be certified to practice. I just have my hands in too many things for right now. I'm still doing my book writing. I have book 5 that I'm working on with the end-of-life conversations. Book 6 is going to be care planning for doulas. And I have for right now it's a theory that I want to see if I can make work. I'm going to put it out there, and I realize by putting it out there, somebody may, quote, come and take the idea. And not that I want you to write about it, but if you do, we'll collaborate. You do you, and I'm just here to live the best life I can live for the glory of God. So traditional care plans have always been looking at what's the problem, what's the solution, how do we implement, and then the monitoring of it. And all that's good and well in the field of nursing. But when it comes to doulas, which are non-medical support personnel, to me, there has to be an easier way. And we don't always know the problem until it hits you. So I actually want to try to look to see if I can get it down to a 2-step approach. And I understand that as I finished saying this, I haven't given you, here's the whole plan. But when I do go to write that book, there'll be more on the topic. But it won't fit the traditional scale for a care plan. So I'm warning you in advance. So if you're a nurse and you're hearing that, you're going, Peter, you're going off the beaten path. This is evidence proven. You're right. For nurses, it's evidence-based practice. But I want to find a better way for hospice nurses not hospice nurses. I apologize. I have my cameras going off for our. Anyway, that's its own. I'll ramble. But I want to make this specifically for doulas and make it as easy as possible to track and monitor, because one of the things nurses go into is we get into cases where managers are telling us, you've not been updating, and no offense to managers, like, you've not been updating the care plan and blah, blah, blah. Well, we're overloaded. So I wanted to make that book as good as possible. So I'm doing this book writing, and so I need to have time for that. I'm doing the vegetable gardening. I need to have time for that. Today, part of the updates is last Tuesday, I met with the volunteer coordinator for Hospice Care Plus out of Richmond. And then today I was there shadowing one of their volunteers. I'm starting off as a receptionist. Nothing's beneath me. I'm starting, and I'm not saying, when I say that, I'm not saying receptionist is a low, I don't know how to word things, so I apologize if I worded that wrong. But I'm starting off as a receptionist in the inpatient unit. My desire is to be a volunteer companion. I'm praying that's going to be sooner than later, because as I look at their scheduling needs, I may not be able to meet their scheduling needs because some of what they need I can't do. Because it interferes with my best time for book writing or family events. And so it's a balancing act. But I'll be volunteering there. And why am I doing this, so that you're aware, is I believe as doulas, more so than any other career I've ever been involved in. And when I say this, I'm not telling you what you have to do. This is my heart speaking to you. Take for it what you will. I strongly believe we have to be out there to support the community. This is no longer one-on-one. We need to support the community. We need to educate through literacy to the community, not only what is a death doula, but death and dying is nothing to fear. And I apologize for those sound effects that you might be hearing. We need to educate the community. We need to be involved in the community. And part of this too is I've already told family and friends, those who are interested, when I do kick this off and running and I have Compassion Crossing LLC, I've been making minor modifications to the website, compassioncrossing.info. But when I kick it off, chances are high 2025 is going to be zero revenue. Now, if I make any money, I will not complain, nor will I turn away anyone willing to pay. But I'm probably going to have pro bono cases and volunteer cases. And if I'm willing to do that, why am I not willing to volunteer for hospice? Why am I not willing to put myself out there so that the community gets to know that there are people out there who will care for them and love them where they're at? And while I'm saying this to you, one of the topics that came up, it came up in yesterday. We had a wonderful, wonderful class at the International Doula Life Movement. Allison did a wonderful presentation on grief. And one of the questions came up for those that wanted to be a grief coach. How can you charge for this? This is somebody's most vulnerable time. And yet we can charge. We should be charging. And so as you're watching, I'm not telling you what to do or how to price. And I'm not saying I'm doing everything for free, but it is in my heart to do a lot at no charge, to do a lot at as low cost as possible. And so I want to be out there in the community. I want to have the people to get out there in the community to know me. And here's the hard part for any of you watching. And I do have a stalker who might be, saying, Peter, you're only doing this out of arrogance. And anyone who's ever taken the time to know me in person, I'm a nobody. And I don't say that to demean myself. And maybe part of that was if you watched my video on can a sinner like me be saved? But maybe it comes from how I was raised, where I was told I was nothing, never going to amount to anything. But even though I don't believe that anymore, because I do believe I'm valuable to God, but in the grand scheme of things, everybody is replaceable from a point of view. So I never want to make myself to be somebody I'm not. And I take that seriously. But I want people to get to know me from the standpoint that if they're going to need doula services, and I can't guarantee them that it'll be free or not, but I'll be the one to reach out to. And I want them to get to know that this is a person that, like, I've had people talk to me, and even though, like, from certain positions, like, depending on what topic we're talking about, I am being honest. I can come across as I'm a blooming, flaming idiot. I can come across as, like, Peter, you're stuck up. And I'm not saying I try to be. I'm just saying I am not perfect. I am broken beyond belief, but the God is changing me and done so much for me. Thank you, Jesus. But here, my patients and families, when they talk to me, they tell me I'm so down to earth. And I don't know if a lady by the name of Vera from California will ever watch this video, but maybe a month or two ago, we were on the telephone. She was considering becoming a hospice nurse. And this was free, by the way. I don't mind helping people when I can for free. And, we're on the phone, and here, she thought because I did say I got a book on Behind the Hospital, Becoming a Hospice Nurse. She thought because I'm a book author and I was pointing to the book that maybe I'm come across as sales-ish or all business and marketing. But when we're talking, she goes, Peter, you're really down to earth. And that's what I strive for, because I don't know it all. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to provide space, to show you love and kindness and compassion. And those are verbs, those are actions as I'm able to. And so that's why I'm volunteering for Hospice Care Plus. That's why I volunteered for the Kentucky Medical Corps, that I'm really hoping that this month is supposed to be the training session, so that when they're asking for volunteers, I've been trained and I can go out there and participate. So that's where I'm at for an update. For any of you looking to get into the practice, or you have any questions on becoming a death doula, please comment and ask. I'll do what I can to help point you to different people if I'm able. Thank you for watching, and God bless.